Have you ever looked at a price and instinctively thought, "For that price?" Not out loud, just a quiet reaction in your head. What makes this moment strange is that, deep down, you already know the object is not very different from a cheaper option. Same function, similar quality, same result. And yet, the price still pulls your attention. It makes you pause. It creates hesitation. Sometimes it even makes the object more attractive. This reaction is not random. It is not weakness. And it is not a lack of intelligence. It reflects how the human brain has learned to read numbers in social settings. Price is not just information. It is a signal. Without noticing, the mind links high prices to ideas like importance, success, and status. Low prices quietly suggest the opposite. This happens automatically, before careful thought has time to enter. So, when you ask, "For that price?" you are not really asking about value. You are reacting to what that price seems to say about belonging, identity, and position. There is an invisible psychological process at work, one that slowly shifts decisions away from usefulness and toward appearance, away from need and toward signaling. Daniel Kahneman spent his career showing that human judgment often works this way, especially when emotion, comparison, and social meaning are involved. In moments like this, the brain is not calculating, it is interpreting. And once price becomes a message instead of a number, the decision is no longer fully deliberate. Imagine two t-shirts placed side by side. Same fabric, same stitching, same durability. They serve the same purpose and will likely wear out at the same pace. One costs $10, the other costs $500. There is no functional reason for the difference. The expensive one does not protect you better. It does not last longer in any meaningful way. It does not solve a different problem. The only visible difference is a small logo sewn into the fabric. Now, consider what happens next. The $500 shirt sells out first. When you slow down and look closely, this feels irrational. From a practical standpoint, the cheaper shirt clearly wins. Yet demand moves in the opposite direction. This is where intuition breaks down. People are not choosing between shirts, they are choosing between signals. The logo compresses a complex social message into something instantly readable. It quietly says, "This is not for everyone." The higher price does not reduce interest, it filters it. It turns the object into a boundary between those who can and those who cannot. That boundary is what gives the product its appeal. At this point, price stops acting like a cost to avoid. It becomes part of the attraction. Paying more is no longer a drawback. It becomes proof that the buyer belongs on the other side of the line. What looks like a poor decision from the outside feels reasonable from the inside, because the choice is no longer about clothing, it is about position. And once status enters the picture, logic steps aside without much resistance. This pattern is not a market failure, it is a reflection. Human beings did not evolve to judge price in isolation. We evolved in groups, where survival depended on reading social cues quickly. Who has influence? Who has access? Who stands higher in the hierarchy? Price has become one of the fastest shortcuts for answering these questions. In this context, a high price does not feel like a barrier. It feels like evidence. Evidence that something is rare, respected, or socially approved. The more expensive it is, the more meaning the brain assigns to it. Utility moves to the background. You are no longer asking whether the object solves a problem. You are asking what owning it communicates. The purchase becomes a form of language, a quiet statement made without words. This helps explain why discounts can sometimes reduce desire. When the price drops, the signal weakens. What once felt exclusive begins to feel ordinary. The brain registers this shift instantly, even though nothing about the object itself has changed. Daniel Kahneman described this type of thinking as fast and automatic. It happens before deliberate reasoning has time to intervene. The mind replaces a difficult question with an easier one. Instead of asking, "Is this useful?" it asks, "What does this say about me?" In that moment, the decision feels personal and rational, but it is guided by unseen social logic. You are not buying only for yourself. You are buying for how others might read the choice. And the price carries most of that message. By the end of the 19th century, this pattern was already visible. Long before social media, long before modern branding. An economist named Thorstein Veblen studied how people spent money and noticed something traditional economics could not explain. People were not just consuming, they were performing. Veblen called this conspicuous consumption. Spending meant to be seen, not to improve comfort, not to increase efficiency, but to demonstrate position. The logic was simple and unsettling. If you can afford to waste resources in public, you must have plenty of them. The more unnecessary the expense, the stronger the signal. Cost itself becomes evidence. Within this framework, usefulness almost loses importance. In some cases, it even weakens the message. A practical item suggests necessity. An expensive and impractical one suggests freedom from necessity. I can afford this even though it makes no sense. That is the statement being made. This is why some products become more desirable as they become less accessible. Difficulty, inefficiency, and high prices are not flaws. They are features. They create distance, and distance creates hierarchy. Once this logic settles in, spending stops being about solving problems. It becomes a way to protect identity, to reassure yourself and others that you belong to a higher category. The trap is subtle. It does not feel like pressure. It feels like choice, like taste, like preference. But underneath, the same signal keeps operating, and it is costly to sustain. This is where the Veblen paradox becomes clear. For certain products, raising the price does not reduce demand. It increases it. The higher price does not push people away. It pulls them in. Because the value was never in the object itself. It was in the exclusion the price creates. At this stage, price is no longer tied to production, quality, or usefulness. Price becomes the product. What is really being purchased is distance from others. Fewer people can cross the line, and that limitation is exactly what gives the purchase meaning. The irony is quiet, but sharp. While the buyer feels closer to wealth, the process works in reverse. Money is not being used to build security or flexibility. It is used to defend an image, and images demand constant upkeep. Daniel Kahneman's work helps explain why this trap holds so well. The brain judges outcomes in relation to others, not in absolute terms. Satisfaction is comparative. A financially harmful decision can still feel rewarding if it improves perceived position, even briefly. For those with extreme surplus, this game is mostly harmless. The very rich buy status with what remains after everything else is covered. The cost does not shape their future. For everyone else, the outcome is different. Trying to look wealthy consumes the very resources needed to become stable. The signal requires repetition, new purchases, higher prices, stronger symbols. There is no finish line. What begins as a small indulgence slowly turns into a pattern, and that pattern drains excess before it can become security. The harsh part is that the system feels voluntary. No one forces the choice. The pressure comes from comparison, expectation, and habit. You are not punished for carelessness. You are rewarded for signaling. And that reward keeps you playing a game designed to extract, not to accumulate. So the question is not whether this trap exists. It does. The real question is how often it has shaped your decisions without you noticing. Think about moments when price felt meaningful on its own, when something seemed better, more legitimate, or more desirable simply because it cost more, not because of what it did, but because of what it implied. These choices rarely feel dramatic. They feel normal, reasonable, even justified. That is what makes the pattern hard to see while you are inside it. There is no single villain here, no specific brand, no isolated purchase, just a repeated habit of letting money speak when silence would cost less. Awareness does not require rejection. It requires distance. The ability to pause and ask what is really being bought in that moment: utility or signal, use or image. Everyone participates in this system to some degree. The difference is whether it directs your resources or simply passes through them. If you have seen this pattern play out in your own life, you are not alone. Many people only recognize it after years of small decisions add up. If you want, share your experience in the comments, not as a confession but as observation. How status, price, or appearance quietly shaped your plans. Seeing the pattern clearly is not the end of the game, but it is the first moment the game becomes visible.